Welcome to part 18 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. The disappearance of Sean Flynn. The disappearance of photojournalist Sean Flynn in 1970 remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the Vietnam War era. Flynn was the only son of legendary Hollywood actor Errol Flynn and French-American actress Lily Demita. He diverged from his initial path in acting to pursue photojournalism, a field in which he found his true calling. Raised primarily by his mother after his parents' separation, Sean Flynn was reportedly deeply influenced by her adventurous spirit. Flynn's transition from Hollywood to the war zones started in the early 1960s. Despite a brief stint at Duke University and some early success in acting, he was drawn to the front lines of conflict zones, first visiting Israel to cover the Arab-Israeli conflict of 1967 before a trip to Vietnam. His coverage of the Vietnam War, where he worked alongside other high-risk photojournalists, showcased the harsh realities of war through his lens. Flynn's fearless approach led him to Cambodia in early 1970, a time when North Vietnamese advances into the country made it a focal point of the war. On April 6, 1970, Flynn and fellow photojournalist Dana Stone set off from Phnom Penh to Saigon, choosing motorcycles over the safety of limousines used by other journalists. Their destination was a government-sponsored press conference in Saigon, but they never arrived. They were last seen approaching a Viet Cong checkpoint on Highway 1, an action that led to their disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing them stripped of their motorcycles and led away into the tree line by unidentified individuals, believed to be Viet Cong guerrillas. The aftermath of their disappearance saw extensive search efforts, notably by Flynn's mother. Despite these efforts, Flynn and Stone were never seen again, and their fate remains a subject of speculation within the journalism and military communities. It is believed that they were held by Viet Cong and North Vietnamese forces before being turned over to the Khmer Rouge. In 1984, Flynn was declared legally dead by his mother, who continued searching for him until her own death in 1994. The slaying of Soo-ya Kim. The case of Soo-ya Kim, a South Korean immigrant living in New York, remains unsolved since her tragic end in 1991. Soo-ya Kim and her husband, Soo-young Kim, moved to the United States in 1981, striving for a better life. They worked hard and eventually owned 2 stores in Long Island and Bushwick, Brooklyn. Their life seemed to be a story of success and perseverance until Soo-ya's life was abruptly ended. On June 29, 1991, Soo-ya Kim went missing. She had left her 2 sons at their grandmother's house and was supposed to go shopping. Her disappearance led to a frantic search. About 10 hours later, her lifeless body was found by a private security guard, Joe Jones, in a dumpster in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The autopsy revealed that she had been stabbed 9 times, though there were no signs of illicit assault, making collection of definitive DNA evidence more difficult. The primary witness in this case was Joe Jones, the security guard who discovered Soo-ya's body. Earlier that day, he had encountered a suspicious individual near the dumpster, offering him $20 to overlook his dumping trash there. Joe noticed blood on the man's shirt and on the ground, which the man claimed was the result of a fist fight he had been in that day. The suspect, as described by Jones, was a white man in his 20s, wearing round glasses, a white tank top with a blue stripe, and blue sweatpants. Despite this detailed description, the identity of the man remains unknown. A part of a license plate seen by Jones led to a blue Nissan registered to a Taiwanese exchange student, who was later cleared of any involvement. With no substantial leads from the car, the investigation faced a dead end. Various theories have been proposed over the years regarding the identity and motive of the assailant. Some speculate that the killer might have known Suya, considering the brutal nature of the attack. Others suggest that the killer might have been a delivery man or taxi driver, familiar with the area where the body was found. Yet no concrete evidence has emerged to support these theories. Another theory suggests that she may have been a victim of Joel Rifkin, a prolific serial killer active in New York City at the time. In favor of this theory, the description given by Joe Jones, the security guard, as well as the composite sketch made from that description look vaguely familiar. However, despite a very similar description, Joel Rifkin primarily or exclusively targeted paid companionship workers, and thus Suya Kim does not fit his victim profile. The impact of Suya Kim's tragic end led her husband to move back to South Korea with their sons in 1993, unable to bear the painful memories and unanswered questions. Unfortunately, it appears that this case is entirely dormant at this point, and given that Suya Kim's family returned to South Korea, there is no one local to advocate on her behalf. The disappearance of Lucy Schumann. Lucy Schumann, a 48-year-old woman from Louisville, Kentucky, vanished under mysterious circumstances during a vacation in St. John, Virgin Islands. Schumann was last seen on September 15, 2019. She was officially reported missing 4 days later, on September 19th, when she failed to return to her Airbnb accommodation in the Coral Bay area. Despite leaving her luggage behind, there was no sign of her whereabouts. Schumann's rental vehicle, a yellow Jeep Wrangler with the license plate JAR 693, was later discovered abandoned in the parking lot of the Salt Pond area within the Virgin Islands National Park. This discovery led to an immediate search in the surrounding area. Subsequently, a backpack containing Schumann's identification was found near the edge of a cliff atop Ram Hill Trail, a remote section of the park. The location of the backpack near a cliff prompted a thorough search of the area, including the ground below the cliff. However, authorities have indicated they do not believe she fell, as the terrain consists of jagged rocks, where any fall would likely have resulted in the discovery of a body. The search for Schumann was extensive, involving both water and ground searches by the National Park Service, St. John Rescue, and the Virgin Islands Police Department. Efforts were intensified with additional ground searches and divers exploring the waters in the Ram Head area, despite the impending approach of Tropical Storm Karen, which threatened to hinder operations. The case remains unsolved, with no conclusive evidence indicating what happened to Schumann after her disappearance. Schumann's case is another case that has sadly received minimal attention, and one of those sorts of cases I feel that it is important to highlight. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel, asking a quick favor. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Also, consider signing up for a YouTube membership, joining the Patreon, and joining the Discord. One more thing, check out the merch store and pick something cool up while also supporting the channel. Jacqueline Nguyen. The disappearance of Jacqueline Nguyen is yet another underreported on missing persons case. Jacqueline was last heard from on October 13, 2019 or March 17, 2020. More on this issue in a moment. Born on February 13, 1994 and of Vietnamese descent, she was 25 or 26 years old at the time of her disappearance. On the day she vanished, Jacqueline informed her family that she was on her way to the Dalles Medical Center in the Dalles, Oregon. Or was she? The peculiar aspect of her case lies in the ambiguity surrounding the details of her disappearance. Some discrepancies exist regarding the date and location of her last known whereabouts, with some agencies noting a disappearance date as March 17, 2020, in San Jose, California. Given that the San Jose Police Department is investigating her disappearance, I'm inclined to believe that the San Jose location and date are correct. Unfortunately, very few details are available with respect to Jacqueline's disappearance, given the two separate dates when she may have gone missing, as well as the fact that for her first missing date she was on the way to the hospital. Combined with her age, I suspect that she may have suffered from a mental health crisis. Further, I suspect that she was subsequently released once the acute phase of her mental health crisis ended, with her then traveling to San Jose where she went missing again. Of course, this is all speculation, but unfortunately, it doesn't appear that any media outlets conducted any investigations into her case, and investigators are tight-lipped. Seriously, if you live in the area, perhaps ask your local media why no one has bothered producing a story on the basis of this missing woman. I struggle with how many of these recent missing persons cases don't even have a single newspaper article associated with them. If you have any information with respect to this case, please contact the San Jose Police Department to report the details. The Betty and Barney Hill abduction. This case comes from a recommendation by subscriber Syntax Nexus, with a request for more cases related to aliens in this series. The Betty and Barney Hill incident stands as a seminal event in UFO history, marking one of the earliest and most publicized reports of an alien abduction. Seriously, I can't overstate the importance of this abduction. Basically, every aspect you think of when you think of alien abductions goes back to this case. On the evening of September 19, 1961, while driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, the couple encountered a mysterious craft. They observed it closely, noting its pancake-like shape and the silent, hovering manner in which it moved. Barney, armed with binoculars, witnessed beings within the craft, describing them as somehow not human and dressed in black, shiny uniforms. The beings communicated telepathically with Barney, instructing him to stay still. This encounter led to a series of puzzling physical effects and missing time for the Hills. Upon arriving home, the couple noticed inexplicable changes. Their watches had stopped, the leather strap of the binoculars was torn, and Barney's shoes were scuffed. Additionally, Betty's dress was damaged and stained with a mysterious pink powder, which, when tested in later years, yielded inconclusive results. They also observed shiny, concentric circles on their car's trunk, which seemed to affect a compass's behavior in an unusual manner. Plagued by unsettling dreams and a lack of memory about the event, the Hills sought the help of Benjamin Simon, a psychiatrist, who used hypnosis to recover their memories. Under hypnosis, they recounted an extraordinary experience of being stopped by the UFO and then taken aboard the craft. There, they were separated and subjected to medical examinations by the non-human beings. Their accounts included descriptions of being inspected, having samples taken from their bodies, and being communicated with telepathically. Notably, Betty recalled a star map shown to her by one of the beings, which would later become a point of significant intrigue and analysis among UFO researchers. The public disclosure of their experience in 1965 catapulted the Hills to fame, setting the template for future alien abduction reports. The narrative elements of their story, missing time, medical examinations, and telepathic communication would become staples in the alien abduction lore that followed. Despite skepticism and alternative explanations, such as suggestions of sleep deprivation or psychological distress, their story remains a cornerstone of UFO folklore. It's really hard to overstate their influence on how subsequent alien encounters were perceived and reported. The Hills account did more than just popularize the concept of alien abduction. It also intersected with social issues of the time, notably as they were an interracial couple during a period of significant racial tension in the United States. This lent credibility to their story, as individuals on the outside speculated that given their relationship, they would not wish to attract any unwanted attention. Numerous theories have been proposed to explain the incident. Hill boosters cite the credibility of the couple in support of their position that the Hills had a legitimate close encounter with alien life forms. Further, they also cite the similarity of subsequent abductions as proof that the Hills were telling the truth. Notably, detractors also cite the same thing as evidence of a mass hysteria-like event surrounding aliens. Another theory suggests the power of suggestion, particularly in the context of hypnosis, which was used to recover the Hills' memories. Critics argue that hypnosis is not a reliable method for retrieving true memories, as it can create false or distorted ones. This could explain the vivid details of their abduction story, which emerged primarily after their sessions with Dr. Benjamin Simon, the psychiatrist. I note that memories recovered through hypnosis also played a very large role in the Satanic Panic, a cultural phenomenon routinely discussed throughout this series. Furthermore, cultural and media influences may have shaped their perceptions and memories. Prior to their claimed abduction, stories of UFOs and extraterrestrial beings were becoming an increasingly popular part of popular culture, potentially influencing the Hills' narrative. Critics have noted that an episode of The Outer Limits, broadcast in the weeks prior to the hypnosis event, mirrors many of the aspects of the abduction. Further, the fact that Betty's sister had claimed to see a UFO before might also have predisposed Betty towards a belief in UFOs. I find it very difficult to say anything definitive about this case beyond one thing. I don't believe that Betty and Barney Hill were lying or exaggerating their case. Also, quick aside, Barney Hill's granddaughter is active UFC fighter Angela Hill. Just a neat fact, nothing more. Let me know in the comments what other UFO sightings or abductions you would like me to cover. Mussolini's Sword of Islam. In 1911, Italy conquered Libya from the Ottoman Empire, but administered its new territories as two separate colonies. In 1934, the two colonies, known as Italian Cyrenaica and Italian Tripolitania, were merged into the newfound colony of Italian Libya. In 1934, after Italy created the colony of Italian Libya, leader Benito Mussolini initiated a strategy to form bonds with the Muslim community there. He called the locals Italian Muslims of the Fourth Shore of Italy and promoted Islamic infrastructure by constructing mosques and schools for Quranic studies. He also facilitated services for those making pilgrimages to Mecca and established a high school of Islamic culture in Tripoli. However, this seemingly benevolent effort concealed a deeper motive. Both the fascist regime in Italy and certain Islamic factions saw this as a way to unite against their mutual adversaries, primarily France and the United Kingdom. This alliance stemmed from their shared dissatisfaction with the outcomes of the 1919 Treaty of Versailles, which they felt did not meet the demands of either Italy or the Islamic community in North Africa. To gain Arab support and cement this alliance, Mussolini, despite his agreement with the Catholic Church through the Lateran Treaty, proclaimed himself the protector of Islam. He argued that by taking over Libya, previously under Ottoman rule, he was the rightful successor to the Islamic Caliphate. On March 20th, 1937, in a ceremonial event outside Tripoli, Mussolini was presented with the Sword of Islam by Yusuf Karisk, a Berber leader who supported the Italian rule in Libya, marking his acceptance and support from powerful local factions. Mussolini then entered Tripoli with great fanfare, declaring his commitment to peace, justice, and respect for Islamic laws. Despite official regime media approval, this event was ridiculed by many Italians due to its perceived extravagant and contradictory nature. The following year, an equine statue was unveiled in Tripoli to honor Mussolini, proclaiming him as a peacemaker and savior of Libya. In this statue, Mussolini was wielding the sword of Islam as a symbol of friendship with the Libyan population. The sword itself, a fine piece of craftsmanship from Florence, with a double-edged blade and decorated with gold, symbolized Mussolini's power and connection to Islam. After its presentation in 1937, it was kept in Mussolini's summer home, but disappeared after the home was looted by Italian resistance fighters in 1943. Theories about the current location of Mussolini's Sword of Islam are speculative, as its whereabouts have remained unknown since 1943. No verified information has surfaced regarding its location since that time. There are a few conjectures among historians and enthusiasts. Some believe the sword could have been hidden or buried by those who looted Mussolini's home, possibly to prevent it from being recovered by fascist sympathizers. Others speculate the opposite, that fascists hid or buried the sword to prevent it from becoming a symbol to Italian anti-fascists. Others speculate that the sword may have been secretly taken out of Italy, perhaps by Allied soldiers or local resistance members who might have recognized its historical and symbolic value. Another theory suggests that the sword could still be in Italy, hidden away in a private collection or forgotten in an attic or storage room, its significance unrecognized by its current holder. However, these are all speculations, and without concrete evidence, the true fate of the Sword of Islam remains one of the many unsolved mysteries from the era of World War II. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in an iceberg series on unsolved mysteries from the Second World War. The Bakeneko. The Bakeneko, a fascinating and feared creature in Japanese folklore, is more than just a simple tale. It is a complex blend of history, superstition, and cultural practices. Originating from a time when cats were both revered and mistrusted, the Bakeneko is portrayed as a supernatural entity with a variety of unsettling abilities. At its core, the Bakeneko is believed to be a transformed creature, evolving from an ordinary domestic cat into something much more sinister. That said, the Bakeneko is not nearly as sinister as the Nekomata, discussed in the last part of this series. This transformation, according to lore, could occur under specific conditions. The cat needed to be of a certain age, weight, and often possess a peculiarly long tail. This led to a unique cultural response during the Edo period, particularly due to the cat's role in protecting all forms of farms, but in particular, silkworm farms from rodents. Cats became invaluable, yet their potential transformation into Bakeneko cast a shadow of fear. The legend of the Bakeneko evolved into various narratives and practices throughout Japan. For example, in Saga, a tale recounts a Bakeneko wreaking havoc in a daimyo's castle, highlighting the creature's ability to curse and impersonate humans. A renowned story of the Bakeneko involves Takasu Genbei, a samurai, who noticed a drastic shift in his mother's demeanor following the mysterious disappearance of their family cat years prior. She became reclusive, distancing herself from relatives and acquaintances, and isolating herself during meals in her chamber. On spying into her quarters, the family was horrified to observe a feline creature, decked out in the mother's attire, voraciously consuming animal remains. Despite his doubts, and against all basic common sense, Takasu eliminated the entity resembling his mother. By the next day, the body reverted to that of the long-lost family cat. In a shocking discovery, Takasu uncovered his actual mother's skeleton beneath the floorboards of her room, her bones having been gnawed on by a cat. I've said it once before, and I'll say it again, but treat your family cat well. If you don't, they could come back and slay your mom and live in her house Little Red Riding Hood style. In Edo-era folklore, Bakeneko were said to disguise themselves as humans, particularly women, to engage in deceptive and malevolent activities. This led to the creation of urban legends such as the Bakeneko paid companionship workers. Yes, you heard that right. Bakeneko would transform themselves into ladies of the night and have relations with human men. The Bakeneko, like other cat yokai such as the Nekomata, continue to be extremely influential in Japanese culture. I speculate the reason for this level of influence is because cats remain popular pets in Japan, and anyone who has been around them knows they're up to something. The Yeti. The Yeti, often known as the Abominable Snowman, is a cryptid rumored to inhabit the Himalayas. This Bigfoot cousin has sparked both fear and fascination, leading to numerous expeditions and studies aiming to prove its existence. Despite the plethora of anecdotal evidence, including visual sightings, photographs, and even casts of large footprints, conclusive proof of the Yeti remains elusive. The origins of the Yeti legend can be traced back to Sherpa folklore, with the creature often compared to Bigfoot due to their similar descriptions as large, bipedal apes covered in hair. The term Yeti itself comes from the Tibetan words for rocky and bear, reflecting the creature's reputed habitat and appearance. That said, Tibetans do not recognize the creature as a bear, but rather this name reflects the creature's bear-like appearance. Tibetan lore even categorizes Yetis by size and color, from the giant black-furred Nyalmo, which stands a staggering 15 feet tall, to the adorable Rang Shim Bombo at just 3 feet tall. The Western world's fascination with the Yeti began in earnest in the early to mid-20th century. However, the earliest accounts reached the West prior to this, quote, Yeti mania. Perhaps the earliest known Western Yeti encounter was documented by B.H. Hodgson in 1832, who described a tall bipedal creature covered in dark hair native to Nepal. Despite this sighting happening in Nepal, Hodgson concluded that this was a regional variant of the orangutan, which given orangutan knowledge at the time was not entirely unreasonable. A significant increase in interest in the Yeti came when the creature was dubbed the Abominable Snowman during a 1921 Mount Everest expedition led by Charles Howard Berry. The mid-20th century saw a peak in Yeti sightings, coinciding with numerous expeditions to Mount Everest. Perhaps the most notable evidence from this era came from Eric Shipton in 1951, who photographed what he believed to be Yeti footprints at 20,000 feet. This era also saw contributions from legendary figures like Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, who reported seeing large footprints. In 1960, Sir Edmund Hillary, now one of the most famous and influential people in the world due to his conquest of Everest, embarked on another expedition to prove or disprove the Yeti. The Silver Hut expedition in 1960 was conducted with the expressed purpose of trying to either prove or disprove the existence of the Yeti. Despite high hopes and widespread curiosity, Hillary's quest yielded no concrete evidence to support the myth of the Yeti, and all evidence found was unhelpful to the Yeti's cause. The expedition also involved examining supposed Yeti tracks and investigating relics revered by locals, such as Yeti scalps kept in remote temples. These investigations were thorough, with Hillary bringing back 3 such relics for scientific examination. Upon analysis, 2 of these relics were identified as originating from bears and 1 from a goat, debunking the theory that they belonged to the elusive Yeti. Hillary's findings were significant in demystifying the Yeti legend. He concluded that the Yeti was not the strange, superhuman creature it was imagined to be. His rational approach to the investigation found logical explanations for most Yeti phenomena, attributing them to known wildlife in the region, such as Tibetan blue bears, red pandas, or goats. Reflecting on the results of his expedition, Hillary remarked that another hunt for the Yeti would be, quote, a sheer waste of money. After this expedition and subsequent testing of Yeti relics, scientific interest in the Yeti dwindled, and at this point the creature attracts virtually no mainstream scientific interest. Given the significant local belief in the Yeti, as well as the significant sightings by explorers of the Yeti, I'm not comfortable simply dismissing the Yeti as fictional. In a sense, the Yeti is real, but in my view, it isn't an ape, but rather a series of bear misidentifications. Tibetan bears are the likely cause of Yeti sightings, specifically the Tibetan brown bear and the Himalayan brown bear. Further, the Tibetan brown bear and the Himalayan brown bear have a wide variety of coats, which cover all reported colors associated with the Yeti. When observed standing on their hind legs, these bears can closely resemble the bipedal figure of the Yeti, as described in eyewitness accounts. Tibetan bears are among the largest bear species in Asia, with their significant size and stature contributing to the confusion. In instances where these bears are seen from a distance, or in less than ideal visibility conditions, such as fog or snow, their silhouettes can easily be mistaken for that of a human-like creature. Additionally, the bear's occasional bipedal posture, adopted for various reasons including feeding or surveying their surroundings, further fuels the misconception. Further yet, bears have sometimes been observed to walk bipedally for long periods of time, just because they can. Further, scientific analyses of purported Yeti samples, such as hair and footprints, have often led back to these bears. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. Your support allows me to take on more difficult topics that risk demonetization. Remember to hit the playlist to see dozens of hours of Unsolved Mysteries content. Huge thanks to all my YouTube members and patrons. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Kazakh Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, and Jeffer Metcalf. Also, big shout out to YouTube member Jordan All. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone.